introduce our paid family leave bill. Congresswoman Wagner and I introduced one last summer, right? Last summer. But now we have a chance to come back with new partners and some tweaks. And we want to thank Senator Romney and Congressman Crenshaw for joining us and for their key leadership on what I believe, but we all believe, is a critical issue for the 21st century. Social Security is perhaps the most enduring domestic program enacted certainly in the last 100 years and perhaps in American history. I believe that for one simple reason: earned security. Social Security says that if you work hard in this country, you'll be insured against the insecurities that any of us could encounter, like poverty and old age or disability during your working career. In the 21st century, we should recognize that we have new sources of insecurity and an even more fundamental risk, which is financial insecurity when you start a family. Working parents today are often trapped in a series of no-win situations. You have to choose to have one parent stay at home, and you can't afford the house close to your place of work, or possibly can't afford to buy a home for your family at all. Have both parents work and watch child care costs cancel out most of at least one of your two incomes. Take time off from work right after having a new child, only to spend less time with them for the rest of their childhood because you need a second job to pay off the debt from your unpaid parental leave. So today we are proposing a change to Social Security to apply it to the challenges of our time. Our proposal would let new parents pull forward a portion of their Social Security benefits for 1, 2, or 3 months of paid parental leave after the birth or adoption of a child. In exchange, parents can either choose to delay their retirement by about 6 months per child, or they have the option of receiving a reduced Social Security benefit during the first 5 years of retirement at an equal size. For example, the projected normal retirement age increase would be, under current conditions, 2 months for every 1 month of paid leave the paid leave benefit amount taken. It's about 1% of future Social Security benefit. And again, it's an option. No one would be required to do this. Consider the example of two parents, one an electrician, the other a teacher. They both earn the national median income for their jobs, about $40,000 per year. Under the plan we're proposing today, if one parent took 2 weeks off from work at 100% of his or her income, then the other parent could afford to take 2 months off at 120% of their income, or 3 months off at 80% of their income. Importantly, our proposal offers maximum flexibility so that families can determine what type of leave works best for them. Under our proposal, the benefit would be transferable between the parents in the household and available to working and stay-at-home moms and dads alike. Our proposal would enact paid family leave in America without increasing taxes, without placing new mandates on small businesses, which would harm young working parents we aim to help. We hope this plan will help advance the cause of pro-family and pro-worker reforms, and we urge our colleagues to consider it. Thank you. I'll turn it over to Senator Romney and Congresswoman Wagner.
Thank you so much, Senator Rubio. It's an honor to be here today. There are 2 states in the country where the number of births actually exceed the number of deaths, where the population rises in the state even without any move-ins. One of those states is Utah. We have a lot of kids in Utah. People are having babies in Utah. And as I talk to people across our state, one of the things I hear time and again is how difficult it is economically to make ends meet, particularly when the child comes home from the hospital, when mom or dad has to leave work, often an unpaid leave, and be able to provide for that little child. And so this piece of legislation allows something to happen that will help ease that burden, and that is by pulling forward some Social Security benefits from when they're going to be much older to the time when they need them as this child comes home. They're able to meet their financial needs during the time of unpaid leave from their work and receive instead this Social Security benefit at such a critical time. That's paid back later in life. One of the things I like about this is not only that it helps these young families that are having children, but also it's something that doesn't add to the national debt. We're not borrowing more money. It also doesn't raise taxes on the American taxpayer. We're not raising taxes to do this. This is something entirely based upon the principle of personal responsibility, where people are able to bring forward Social Security benefits at a time when they really need them, when a young child is coming home from the hospital. So I'm happy to be part of the sponsorship of this great piece of work. I appreciate the Congress people and the Senator for having worked so diligently over many, many months to pull this together, and believe this will be a real plus for the people of my state and for men and women across our country. Thank you. Congresswoman?
Thank you. Wonderful to be here today. The Americans do have to worry about whether they're going to be able to balance staying in the workforce and caring for their child. We are the only industrialized country that does not offer guaranteed paid family leave. It's obvious to me that Congress must act, which is why I stood up and shouted yes at President Trump's State of the Union address when he advocated for paid parental leave. We now have a Republican White House willing to work with us on a conservative and responsible solution, and I'm grateful that we are having such a robust conversation on how best to support our families. With the rising costs of living and child care, it can be difficult to grow your family. The New Parents Act lets individual workers make this financial planning decision for themselves. American families and workplaces have grown more diverse and versatile. Today, women make up almost half of the American workforce, and 2/3 of families have dual income and share child care responsibilities. We need a flexible paid leave policy that's designed, as in the words of Senator Rubio, for the 21st century workforce. Research shows that women who have paid leave benefits are more likely to return to work and work more hours per week after having a child. This plan would require no new taxes or mandates, meaning it would not discourage work or job creation. It allows young moms and dads to take what I call an advance on their own Social Security benefits to help them during this exciting time. Over the past year, we have worked hand in hand drafting this legislation with the Social Security Administration Chief Actuary to ensure that this bill does not affect current or future earned benefits and also maintains the solvency of the Social Security Trust Fund. At their retirement, workers who voluntarily choose to take this option will repay any parental benefits received through a temporary benefits reduction or a delay in retirement to offset the costs. They can also pay back at a future time. I could take this benefit at 25, 27. I could pay it back when I was 50 or 56, maybe more financially stable. So they have 3 options there. It gives new parents choices for how best to keep their role in the workplace while still having time to care for their new child. Our legislation will expand freedom and flexibility and make parenthood more affordable, but most importantly, it will give America's children more time with their parents during one of life's most precious and exceptional moments. This proposal is a win-win. It is a win for women, for families, employers, employees, as well as the economy and the job market. Senator Romney, Senator Rubio, and Congressman Crenshaw have been wonderful partners on this issue, and they recognize how important it is to find a workable solution to the issue of paid parental leave. We believe that this is, again, a conservative, responsible solution that will best help our next generation of working parents without overburdening our government or employers. I appreciate working with each of them on this important issue, and I'm so pleased to have a gentleman from Texas, Congressman Crenshaw, one of our new freshman members who has so avidly jumped onto this legislation and been a tremendous partner. So,
it is innovative, and unlike many other proposals, it's actually feasible. What makes this opportunity even better is that there is no long-term impact on our budget. This is a fiscally responsible way to provide a paid family leave benefit. Because the last thing we want to do is promise more benefits to young people that our future generations will have to pay off. There's already too much of that in Washington. It's how politicians get elected. After all, this solution doesn't make false promises. By allowing families to decide how best to use their benefits, we're offering an option that would change lives and encourage young parents to start a family without having to worry about their finances when they are most vulnerable and when their newborns so desperately need the attention of their parents. Republican policies are pro-family, and this bill is building upon that agenda. We've already given hardworking families a better job market, not just through regulatory relief, but also through the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, where we not only created a booming economy, but also doubled the child tax credit. We are the party that advocates for a sustainable future, one where we don't make promises that we can't keep. We are the party that is built around the idea that you know best what to do with your money, your time, and your freedoms. We don't believe that we can pay for government programs with just good intentions alone. When you believe that business is the enemy of success and the business is the enemy and success should be punished instead of valued, you destroy our job market. Other policies on the other side of the aisle do just that, and they hurt the financial future of our country. That's why I so emphatically support this bill, because it's a chance to do the right thing in a fiscally conservative way. I'm also supporting this bill because I know the people that it will help the most. It is my generation, a generation of millennials that are starting their families and want flexible solutions to make that journey easier. When I talk to young people, people my age, about starting families, they have concerns about time off of work and their financial ability to take care of their kids. Providing this highly flexible option ensures that time off from work no longer has to be of their child. That's a horrific situation, and this legislation would ensure that the answer is not a binary choice. Numerous studies indicate that health of newborns is directly correlated to parents being present. The New Parents Act prioritizes the health of newborns and the financial futures of families. I'm so proud to be supporting it, and I look forward to turning this into law as soon as possible. The American family should not have to wait any longer. Thank you. Thank you all.
There's another bill in the Senate sponsored by Senator Lee and Ernst, somewhat similar in terms of holding strong Social Security sort of in advance. Why not work with them on the same bill? How does this differ from their?
And their bill's very good and very similar. As you said, there's some differences, which is the reason why they chose a different path on the transferability of the benefit to both parents, as opposed to having it's some benefit that could be allocated between the parents. It's the primary difference in it, and we felt strongly that was important because it allows you the flexibility, as I outlined in my example, of having one parent take leave first at 80% of the benefit, and then the second parent take leave at 120% of the benefit. So we just want to provide, this whole thing is an option, right? No American is going to be forced to take anything out of Social Security. It is an option that is available to them that they do not have now. And within that option, we wanted to create additional options for how they wanted to allocate the benefits. So that is the primary difference. But their proposal is a good one, and I would anticipate that even when we get momentum on this, and I believe we can and will, that we'll be partnered with them at sort of finding the final way to approach it.
And if I could, the flexibility is what's key here. Our plan allows a new parent to work with their employer to maybe come up with the best flexible work plan. Maybe they want to take the first month home with their child, but maybe in the second month they want to work Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, or some kind of a part-time option. We're allowing the maximum amount of flexibility for what's good for an employer, what's good for the employee and the new mom and dad. So, but I also agree it's a great plan.
When you introduced this last year, you said you were going to seek bipartisan support for it. Have you, and if you haven't, doesn't this make it a real uphill battle?
I have. I always seek bipartisan support, and I am in conversations with two Democrat members of the House, I can say, that one in particular is very, very interested, and I will continue to do this. We've just rolled this out. We've been working on this since this summer to come to some level of harmonization, and now it's time to pick up co-sponsors. Generally, the people that work on the legislation are the first to jump on. I am in consultation with Democrats in the House, and I see this as a bipartisan option.
And can I follow on that? Some people say that what you're doing is opening Social Security to other areas too. Like for instance, if you wanted to pay for college for your kid, could you tap into Social Security? What do you say to that? That you're sort of going after this sacrosanct institution?
Now, this is very, very narrow, obviously, and it's initiated specifically for paid family leave. And let me stress also that I see this as a 21st century solution for something that we're the only industrialized country that does not offer benefits like this. Really, I think the numbers are only 1 in 10 Americans actually have access to paid family leave, and I find that to be very disappointing. And we want to make sure, however, that we are not doing anything to the solvency of Social Security and the trust fund or affecting any current or future retirees' benefits. This is an advance on their own Social Security. And there are certain guidelines. They'll have to have a little skin in the game, Chuck. They'll have to have worked anywhere from 8 to 12 quarters in order to draw back. We've been very fiscally responsible in this proposal. So.
Two questions. One, why limit to 3 months at this point? There are many studies that say that first year or more is really critical for new parents. And then second, can you talk about basically the debate over whether what you're doing here is giving parents a choice, but a very difficult choice. Some say culturally people should see paid leave and family leave as something more like vacation that is baked in and accepted by everyone, not something that parents have to trigger themselves.
Well, let me start. The 3 months is basically because we wanted to stay consistent with the existing law on the ability to take leave from work, obviously without the requirement of compensation. So that's already been built into our systems, and businesses have already grown accustomed to that requirement. And so trying to stay consistent with that would be less disruptive. I don't understand the argument that this gives parents a bad option, but right now they have no options. Basically, many people, most Americans cannot afford to go 2 weeks without a paycheck, 3 weeks without a paycheck, much less 3 months. And their only other option is to either A, not have children, or B, go on public assistance or run up huge amounts of debt. So everyone will have a choice to make, and they'll have to examine it and decide whether it makes sense for them or not. And as far as whether it should become something that's broadly accepted, this does nothing to impede the private sector's ability to provide this benefit to their employees. The irony is, if you make $800,000 a year on Wall Street, you have it. If you make $40,000 a year somewhere else, you probably do not. So it's the people who need it the most that are least likely to have it. But ultimately, our job here is to make things better. And I would say that some people may choose not to take this option, but it is certainly better than having no option at all, which is what they have today. And so, in our view, it makes things better than it is now.
Got a question over there, too.
Thank you. I know there's a third conservative bill coming from Senator Bill Cassidy. At this point, do you know what some of the differences are that he might introduce?
No, I don't, but I do think it's good that we now have at least 3 separate groups working on paid family leave within the Republican Party. This was an issue that 5 years ago was not discussed as part of Republican orthodoxy. So I think it's an important development that we now have both parties thinking and talking about this issue, and it's part of the broader hope that this does become, as was just asked a moment ago, something that we recognize is a key source of insecurity for modern American families. And so I welcome more ideas. I hope this becomes a competition of ideas where everybody's taking their views and applying it to the problem, because I think that's where the solution is going to come from. Yes, ma'am.
Senator Romney, how do you feel about Betsy DeVos and the education budget cutting out $18 million that's going to directly affect the special needs?
I'm actually going to take questions about other topics, perhaps in the hall after this, but we're going to focus on the paid family leave at this point.
Yeah, we just want to make sure we get everybody's question, and then obviously you guys will chase us down, and we'll run as fast as we can, and if you can catch us, you'll get your answer. Yeah. Yes, sir.
To follow up on Chuck's question about on the Senate side, what's the prognosis for getting that co-sponsors?
Well, we've tried. They're obviously wedded pretty strongly to either the tax increase proposal or a mandate or a combination of both. And right now, that's deeply problematic. We can't pass that, number one. I think it would actually be counterproductive. I think the mandate could have the unintended consequence of encouraging businesses not to hire people who might use the benefit. And the tax increase is a payroll tax increase, which is the primary, and in many cases, the sole federal tax liability of the very people we're trying to help. So those approaches don't work for us. So we hope that, obviously, that at some point that there'll be a meeting of the minds from both parties, because that's what it'll take to turn this into law. But I think what's important is that more and more people are talking about it. And I would say as Republicans, we have an obligation to get our own house in order. I mean, this is still not widely accepted in some of the circles that we come from, because it's a new issue. And so it'll take some work to get more and more of our colleagues on board with the concept that government should have any role to play in this regard. And my only observation, it may not be shared by everybody up here, it's just an observation I made the other day, and that is about 15 years ago, was an effort in the Republican Party to take your Social Security benefits and have an opportunity to invest it in the stock market, to manage your own investment. It's your money, it was the argument. And I find it, obviously that didn't happen, and we've moved on, but I find it sort of ironic that someone would support taking that money and investing it in the stock market, which may or may not be a good idea, but not being able to invest in your children, which is perhaps the most meaningful thing you could do for our country and its future. So we're hoping that we can continue to work to preach the gospel of paid family leave within our own party and sort of reframe the orthodoxy that has dominated this issue. And we're making real progress, as evidenced by 3 potential bills and numerous members of the House and Senate working on it from the Republican side.
Let me just also note in that regard that...
If you want to do the mic so they can...
Oh, I don't think they need to hear what I'm saying. I don't think it's a surprise that our Democrat friends would say, look, let's increase the tax instead. We're much more inclined to say, no, we don't want to add an additional burden to working families, and we don't want to increase the tax. And they say, well, but you could just take a little bit of money every year for the rest of someone's life while you could pay for this benefit. And my thought is, well, how about letting those people take that little bit of extra money and either pay for their own expenses, or perhaps if they want to invest, as Senator Rubio said, they want to invest in the stock market with that little extra money every month, they'll be a lot better off having invested that little extra money every month in the stock market than having invested it into Social Security. And so this allows people to maintain their own resources, to have the option to pull forward Social Security benefits at a time when they need them quite significantly, and have the flexibility to then make their own decisions about how they invest in their future.
It also is not only is it voluntary, it is specific to the individual, to that new mom and dad. This does not in any way affect any other person or individual out there. Maybe there's someone that doesn't choose to have children. It doesn't affect their benefits. Employers that can't afford to offer doesn't affect their work. So the flexibility here and the fact that it is tied to your individual benefit, I think, is key. In terms of co-sponsorships, obviously many of the proposals that are in the House that have been offered do raise payroll taxes and are non-starters for me and for many others. However, I have had some luck with some of the new incoming Democrat freshmen in interest, so that's where some of that comes from. So,
We have time for one more, guys.
Yes, ma'am.
Jackie from Cox Media, how much time would you want off of work if you had a baby or you adopted a baby, or you would want for your partners?
Well, we actually had 4, and and we had the ability at that time. My wife wasn't working outside the home, and so for us, it was an enormous benefit. I don't know the answer to that. I mean, it depends on individual circumstances. I would imagine most parents would want as much time as they could get, but right now, for them, the time is 0. At least not without losing a paycheck. And most can't afford it. And I think the one thing that brought me to this issue is actually knowing people. And I think Congressman Crenshaw mentioned that as part of a generational situation. When you actually know people that have had to make this choice and see the agonizing limited options they have before them today, it compels you to understand that we have a social insecurity cause in our 21st century. Social Security was created at a time when the primary insecurity was when people retired, there was nothing there to help them, and you had large numbers of senior citizens living in abject poverty. And that remains something we were concerned about. But there's an additional insecurity that exists today that perhaps did not exist 50, 60, 80 years ago, and that is young families who at the birth of a child are left with an option of either not having a child at all or having to take on debt and or going on public assistance as a result of this. So as I said, I mean, everybody will make a decision about what the right frame. This is not designed to make the world perfect. It's designed to make the world better than it is today for millions of Americans who are having to make that very difficult choice right now.